Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. Coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our show tonight. Folks, if you're not already subscribed to our program, please subscribe. And when you hit that, you get subscribed, you want to click on that little notification bell right beside the subscription button. Click on that. A drop-down menu of 3 items is going to come up. Click on the word ALL, all. That will get you notified when we come on the air. I'm sorry we came on the air a bit late, but I had some late breaking news that I wanted to give you tonight. And I believe this is urgent information for everybody to know. The first thing I want to do tonight is talk about the Tesla truck explosion in Las Vegas. Let's take a look at this first.
CCTV footage shows a Cybertruck exploding outside of the entrance of Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas this morning. And moments later, you can see what looks like fireworks shooting out from the vehicle. One person, the driver, was killed, 7 others injured, minor injuries that is, and now an investigation is looking at whether this was an act of terrorism. Eyewitness News reporter Tim Caputo has just arrived in Las Vegas. He joined us now live with the breaking developments. Tim?
And David, certainly that is the big question, whether or not this is an act of terrorism. We heard from authorities a short time ago who can tell people that this appears to be an isolated incident. They don't believe there's any kind of ongoing or active threat to the community. They do believe this Tesla Cybertruck was rented out of Colorado a couple days ago, driven here to Las Vegas. So it only arrived around 7:30 this morning, and authorities say the truck was seen driving up and down the strip for about 10-15 minutes before parking in front of the Trump Tower here behind me, and for only about 15-20 seconds before it exploded. You see the scene live right now behind me. The street is still closed. Police still investigating. In fact, that Cybertruck is still in the exact spot where it exploded. We're going to show you the video here. We do want to warn you, it is graphic because the driver of that Cybertruck was inside at the time and died in that explosion. Now, this blast happened at around 8:40 this morning, right at the front doors of the covered entrance of the Trump Tower.
Okay, that happened yesterday morning, right in front of the Trump Tower. There was an overhang coming out from the side of the building where people could park to get their luggage out without getting wet or whatever from rain, and then be able to go into the hotel. And in fact, there was a guest up on the 38th floor yesterday morning that was supposed to get on a plane at 2:30 yesterday afternoon. Her bags were at the door. Her bags were still at the door after the explosion. The glass of the door at the front of the Trump Towers did not break. The explosion of the Tesla truck went straight up in the air. Now, that credits a lot to Tesla, because those Tesla trucks contained the explosion. What was in the truck? Let's go to another video here, and I'll let the Las Vegas Police Department talk about it.
In our national lead, new details about the person who blew up a Tesla Cybertruck outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas on New Year's Day. Law enforcement officials believe Matthew Livelsberger, a decorated active-duty Army Special Forces sergeant, rented the truck and was in it when the explosion occurred. Police are still waiting on final DNA confirmation because the body was, quote, burnt beyond recognition. The sheriff of Las Vegas Police Department added this.
The individual had sustained a gunshot wound to the head prior to the detonation of the vehicle. One of the handguns was found at his feet inside of the vehicle.
CNN's Natasha Chen is on the scene in Las Vegas. CNN's John Miller joins us from New York. Natasha, to you first. The sheriff said investigators demonstrated that the investigators worked through the night, came up with a ton of evidence. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, at the press conference, Phil, they showed pictures of these charred pieces of evidence. There are 2 semi-automatic handguns that they found that they said were legally purchased just very shortly before this explosion happened on New Year's Day. They found the person's military ID, a passport, fireworks, an iPhone, smartwatch, credit cards, saying that most of the material in there was to help fuel a greater explosion. But again, that it was contained did less damage than it could have done because authorities credit the construction of the Cybertruck itself. And I did talk to a couple of guests, though, who felt the shaking from that explosion all the way up above 40 floors up in the hotel. They said there was even smoke billowing into the stairwell out of the elevator doors. Here is one of the investigators speaking at the press conference about the nature of that explosion.
I just want to be careful with my language here, but the level of sophistication is not what we would expect from an individual with this type of military experience.
And then that truck was seen on surveillance video going up and down Las Vegas Boulevard that same morning, and then the hour before the explosion, actually circling around here in front of the hotel and actually drove up and through the valet area and then came back for that explosion that we're talking about. Definitely very frightening moments for people inside, but did not do any damage to the glass at the front of the hotel at all. Phil.
Which is remarkable when you see the video of that explosion. John, the police laid out a sequencing here. I think that was news, at least for me while watching it, that the individual was shot in the head, then the explosion occurred afterwards. Can you explain kind of the sequence of events here?
So one of the things that we were wondering about yesterday is how does someone roll up in a car, start the fuse or detonation process of this conflagration of flames and heat, and then just remain in the driver's seat. That requires, even in a suicide, a tremendous amount of willpower to sit through that. What we learned today was the answer to that question, which is, according to the sheriff, it appears he self-inflicted a gunshot wound to the head with one of the guns that Natasha just told us he had bought literally a day before, and that by the time that explosion happened, he was probably already dead.
John, the FBI spent hours at a Colorado Springs home they say was related to the explosion, still looking into whether this was terrorism. I think what's striking about, particularly in contrast to the New Orleans attack, where the profile very much fits with kind of what we've seen over time related to somebody who was radicalized by ISIS, there are a lot of questions that we don't have answers to in terms of motive right now. What do you know?
Well, one of the things that's been so time-consuming about these searches is not just putting together the documentation to get a federal judge to sign off on the warrant, but also when they were on the line of thinking that these might be connected, that they might be both connected to terrorist groups, that they might be connected to other accomplices. When you enter a place to do a search like this, it's not the investigators who are going through the door first. It's the bomb squad. And they're not walking through the door. They are literally scanning every surface in front of them, looking for where's that tripwire? Where's this third and fourth device? Where's the booby trap when you open this door? So they clear the place, and that takes a long time to do it under these circumstances. Your normal search warrant, you walk in and you're looking for what you're looking for. Then the crews that go in, they're looking for everything. They want to know fingerprints. Who's been here? How about our subject? How about anybody else that registers in here? DNA, what's in the drains, chemical, residue, explosive residue, and so on. So that's been time consuming, but these cases are starting to separate, Phil. We're seeing New Orleans start to look like what New Orleans is, which is a self-radicalized individual who took it upon himself to say, I'm doing this on behalf of ISIS. They'll still go back through his material to see if he was in contact with ISIS or a consumer of propaganda, but that's what he says on the tapes, allegedly. Las Vegas, more complicated. A higher level of military training, an active duty member, a member of special forces who has been deployed in Germany most of this time, comes home for Christmas, and they've interviewed his command on both sides of the pond, in Germany and at Fort Carson, Colorado, the people who worked with him and served with him. They've also interviewed family members, his wife, his mother included, and they are starting to get a picture of issues that came up within the family situation part of the pressures of long-term deployments and other things that might make this more personal and more suicide than anything else.
Okay? More suicide than anything else. Okay? I'm going to leave it there. However, the story goes on. The story goes on, guys. It's incredible what I know. I'm going to feed it to you bit by bit so you understand where we're coming from here. This is quite a story. This is a huge story. First, let's take a look at Matt Livelsberger. He wasn't just a member of Special Forces. He wasn't just a Green Beret officer. This man was an operations director, an intelligence manager. He helped operate and program drones. Okay? Remote autonomous systems. He helped operate and program drones. Okay? Do you understand where I'm going with this? Okay? This man was a very sophisticated member of Special Forces and the United States military. He was in the Army. But it doesn't stop there. It does not stop there. Let me give you some more information here. This may help blow your mind, literally. Okay? This is Matthew Livelsberger, okay? He was a Special Forces in Germany, okay? He was also a highly decorated officer, okay? But it gets even more weird, okay? It gets very much weirder. Let's put him together with Jabbar. Okay? There are so many eerie parallels with Jabbar and Livelsberger. Okay? Both of them served in the Army. Both of them served at Fort Bragg in South Carolina. Together in 2012. Isn't this interesting? In 2012 they were together. It gets weirder. Okay? Let me put everything together for you. Let's bring in another man right here. Mr. Ryan Wesley Ruth, the assassin that tried to kill President Trump the second time. Okay? Guess who else was at Fort Bragg? Ryan Wesley Ruth visited Fort Bragg 147 times. 147 times. But it doesn't stop there, guys. It goes far and beyond. Okay? I couldn't believe what I dug up today. I find it very hard to believe what I found out. I put 2 and 2 together here. I came up with 5. I put 2 and 2 together and came up with 5. How's that possible? Richard Smith is asking about Crooks, the man who shot at President Trump the first time. So far, we haven't got anything to link the 3 of them. Or the 4 of them, I should say. But there is a stunning link between the New Orleans attacker and the alleged cyber truck bomber at the Trump Hotel in Vegas. And it's shocking a lot of Americans. Biden's border policy has had devastating consequences. Here's what we know. Authorities have discovered a critical link between individuals implicated in 2 attacks on New Year's Day against the United States. One that suggests they may have been in communication and coordinated their activities. Now, what else has been going on? The FBI yesterday morning said there was absolutely no connection between what Jabbar did and anything else. The FBI first said there was no connection to terrorism activity. Then, as I said last night, by midday yesterday, the FBI had to walk that statement back. There's been a definite connection between terrorist activity and Mr. Jabbar. Okay? And terrorism activity between Jabbar and Livelsberger. Okay? 2 separate attacks. Okay? In Las Vegas, where that Cybertruck exploded outside of Trump International Hotel. Federal and local officials have identified Matthew Livelsberger, who is a 37-year-old Green Beret veteran, who they say rented the vehicle using the Turo smartphone app. One person believed to be Livelsberger, the driver, died when the Cybertruck exploded at approximately 8:48 a.m. yesterday morning, while sitting curbside at the Trump property, with the back of the Cybertruck loaded with gasoline tanks, camping fuel for a stove, and fireworks, large fireworks. Okay? Large firework mortars, the kind that launch the fireworks into the sky. It takes a lot of energy for those fireworks to go up, and it takes a mortar. It takes a mortar. Okay? The mainstream media discovered Livelsberger as the renter of the truck, the Cybertruck. But the FBI and the Las Vegas Police Department have not returned requests for comment. Okay? Now, we've all heard that both Livelsberger and Jabbar rented vehicles from Turo Car Rental. Turo Car Rental has said that both individuals, neither one had a criminal background. So Turo Car Rental rented both vehicles to them. Now, so far, there's no connection between those 2 vehicles and the terrorism activity. So far. They were rented with separate credit cards. So far. Okay? But both served on the military base Fort Bragg in South Carolina. Shamsuddin Jabbar, the driver in New Orleans, who plowed a rented truck into the Bourbon Street crowd and killed 15 people, including himself, and injured another 35 people. That happened at about 3:15 a.m. yesterday morning. Witnesses say Jabbar's truck made its deadly run through the bustling French Quarter before Jabbar was shot and killed by police. Jabbar ran his truck into a bunch of people, and then it stopped. Then Jabbar took his guns out and pointed them at police and fired at the police. The police returned fire and killed him, made him unalive. That happened just hours before the Las Vegas attack. But like Livelsberger, Jabbar was a U.S. citizen and a U.S. Army veteran. and the two served at Fort Bragg Army Base in South Carolina together. A personnel record acquired by the outlet reveals that Jabbar joined the military in 2007, where he specialized in human resources and information technology. Interesting, because isn't that exactly what happened with Liebelsberger? He had the same kind of training. The same kind of training. But all three of these individuals, Jabbar, Liebelsberger, and Ruth, were at Fort Bragg together. Ruth was visited there 147 times, and he spent a great deal of time there overnight as well. Unreal, guys. Unreal. And it goes further than that. You might get blown away by what we're going to talk about. Okay? The possible links between these individuals. This is what's left of the Tesla truck. Again, the way that truck was built contained the explosion. Multiple explosions. Not only were there gasoline tanks in the back of that truck, meaning gasoline cans in the back of that truck, and camping propane containers, and fireworks mortars, powerful shells that launch fireworks up into the air. Okay? The Jabbar and Liebelsberger had the same background. Jabbar was deployed to Afghanistan from February 2009 to January 2010. Subsequently, he transitioned to the U.S. Army Reserve in 2015, and he concluded his military service in 2020 with the rank of Staff Sergeant. Liebelsberger, who enlisted in 2006, built a career as a major in the Special Forces. Major in the Special Forces. An officer. An officer. Unreal. Literally unreal. Now, it gets weirder. Authorities have discovered a critical link between the individuals implicated in the two attacks on New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day, and it's actually all on New Year's night, or New Year's morning. But it suggests that they have been in communication and coordinated their activities. Okay? The FBI is denying it. The FBI is denying it. They said there is no connection between the two. In Las Vegas, where the Cybertruck exploded outside the Trump International Hotel, federal and local authorities have identified Matthew Liebelsberger, 37-year-old Green Beret veteran, a major, who they say rented the vehicle using a Turo smartphone app, and one person believed to be Liebelsberger, the driver, died when the Cybertruck exploded at approximately 8:48 a.m. yesterday morning, while sitting curbside in front of the Trump property. Like I said, his trunk, the back, I can't say the trunk, but the back of the truck was loaded with gasoline cans and camping fuel, propane containers, and fireworks mortars. Now, Newsweek has reported that local outlets have discovered Liebelsberger as a renter, but the FBI and the Las Vegas Police Department have not returned any requests for comments. I even called Las Vegas Police myself this afternoon, and they turned me down for a comment. Now, Authorities are continuing to investigate this, whether the attacks were connected. And sources shared that Livelsberger at one point served on the same army base as Shamsud Din Jabbar, the driver in New Orleans. Okay? As I said, he killed 15 people, including himself, and injured 35 others. Now, I was going to play a video detailing the people that he killed, but at this point in time, I think it's inappropriate. Okay? But again, Jabbar did what he did. There was a let me show you this. Okay, this is the difference between the two people. Livelsberger blew up his truck in front of the Trump International Hotel. Well, Jabbar was in the French Quarter in New Orleans. Okay? The street on Bourbon Street was blocked by a police vehicle. Jabbar went around the police vehicle, up over the sidewalk, purposely driving down the sidewalk to run into people. Purposely. Now, when New Orleans puts on their special events, they usually have bollards. They usually have bollards that they put in the street. I'm going to reduce the size of this photograph, and I'll show you what happens. Bollards are great big huge steel rods. They're about 8 inches in diameter, each of them. They put bollards in the street, and when they hold a special event, they raise the bollards out of the street like this, completely blocking the street so nobody can get around. Now, someone was asking earlier today, why did they not put bollards in the sidewalk? Yes, they could have done that. They could have done that. Someone also asked, would that have blocked pedestrian traffic on the sidewalk? No. I've seen in streets in Charlotte, I've seen streets in San Diego, I've seen streets in Salt Lake and Denver with bollards at the end of the sidewalk, so nobody can drive up over the sidewalk. People can walk around the bollards, but the bollards would prevent any vehicular traffic on the sidewalks. But New Orleans didn't have them in the sidewalks. The bollards had been taken down from the street to get repaired before the Super Bowl game, which is going to be held a month from now at the Superdome in New Orleans. They're going to put those bollards back in the street before the Super Bowl. But for New Year's Eve, they had taken the bollards out to be repaired to make sure they're ready for the Super Bowl. That night, they could have had the bollards there, but they didn't. They could have blocked the traffic. In this case, it would not have mattered, because the New Orleans police put one of their vehicles in the intersection so nobody could go around it, and this guy did. He went around the police vehicle, swerved around the police vehicle, and got on the sidewalk and ran into the people on the sidewalk. He purposely did it. Now, after he had run into all those people, he opened his door and opened fire on police. And that's when police shot back and made him unalive. Okay? That happened just hours before the Las Vegas attack. Like Jabbar, he was a U.S. citizen. Liebelsberger was also a U.S. citizen who had spent years in military service as a Special Forces unit. They served at Fort Bragg together. Incredible. A personnel record that's been made available to the media said that Jabbar joined the Army in 2007. He specialized in human resources and information technology. Guess what? Liebelsberger did the same. Jabbar was deployed to Afghanistan from February 2009 to January 2010, subsequently transitioning to the U.S. Army Reserve in 2015, concluding his military service in 2020 with the rank of Staff Sergeant. But unlike Liebelsberger, who was still active duty when he committed this act, Jabbar was discharged dishonorably. He had a dishonorable discharge in 2020 when he left the Army. Liebelsberger enlisted in 2006 and built his career up to major in the Special Forces. Incredible. Now, Liebelsberger was also married. He had a home in Colorado Springs, Colorado. He was at Fort Carson. He was temporarily staged at Fort Carson. He came home for the holidays and was at Fort Carson. He was married. He and his wife were having some issues with their marriage. It should be noted that Liebelsberger was more conservative, but his wife was more liberal. His wife supported Kamala Harris and Biden. There was a lot of friction between the two. And what happened after he got back for Christmas and when he went over to Las Vegas are two different stories. The FBI tracked him from Fort Carson all the way to Las Vegas with credit cards where he stopped to recharge his electronic vehicle, his Tesla truck. That's how they tracked him to Las Vegas. Yesterday morning, the FBI said that Jabbar had acted alone. Yesterday afternoon, the FBI walked that back and said that he had been affiliated with 3 other men and a woman who had placed explosives around the downtown area of New Orleans. Now today, the FBI has backtracked that again, saying that Jabbar had acted alone and placed IEDs around New Orleans himself. After he placed the explosives around New Orleans, then he changed his clothes, got in his truck, and ran his truck down the sidewalk, where he was shot and killed by police. Now, Jabbar allegedly planned those explosives himself. Allegedly. Okay? There is some thought that says that he did not act alone, although the FBI is now saying that he acted alone. And the FBI is also saying that he may not have even known Liebelsberger. Really? They served together at Fort Bragg. Unreal. Today, President Joe Biden told reporters that law enforcement are investigating this as well, including whether there's any possible connection between the attack in New Orleans and Las Vegas. Biden said thus far there's nothing to report on that score at this time in Vegas. In Las Vegas, Sharon Keffin McKeel said, quote, "We are absolutely investigating any connectivity to what happened in New Orleans as well as other attacks that have been occurring around the world. Yes, there have been other attacks around the world. Sheriff McHale said that they aren't ruling anything out. An investigation into Jabbar, a native of Texas. It should be noted that Jabbar lived in Texas. The FBI went out to his house in Texas. It's incredible what they found. Okay? They found that he lived in a trailer, a mobile home. Let me show you a picture of that. Right there. That mobile home right there. Last night, Houston police and the FBI surrounded this mobile home until they got a warrant. Then they made the approach and went into that mobile home. Nobody was there. Jabbar had recently divorced his wife, or his wife divorced him. His daughter lived with his wife separately. When all this came out yesterday, his daughter went crazy. Couldn't believe her father had done that. He lived here in Texas. But it doesn't stop there. When he got to New Orleans, he rented this Airbnb home here. He rented this Airbnb home here. But the problem with that is that he had filled it with explosives. He put a bunch of explosives here, and hazmat crews and bomb technicians had to go into that home today to rid that home of explosives. Okay? He had a fascination with the Islamic State. Jabbar had a fascination with the Islamic State, which may have inspired this attack. Biden added in the statement today that the FBI had informed him that mere hours before the attack, that Jabbar had posted videos on social media indicating that he had been inspired by ISIS, expressing his desire to kill. ABC News reported today that the videos are dark and Jabbar's face is not readily apparent, but the figure can be heard talking about his recent divorce and his desire to kill members of his family. Sources say Jabbar had been heard talking about ISIS as well. So the investigation continues. The investigation continues. It's not over. It's not over by a long shot. I think we'll probably hear about this for months to come. This is not over. Now I want to talk about some earthquakes. We've had some very powerful earthquakes around the globe today. Okay? Specifically, I'm going to show you several earthquakes here on the USGS map. So bear with me for just a minute. I'll come back to the United States in a few minutes. I want to go over here to South America, over Antofagasta, Chile. There was a very strong earthquake there. A 6.7 earthquake hit this morning, or actually this afternoon at 3:14 p.m. this afternoon. 6.7 earthquake. USGS has now downgraded it to a 6.1 earthquake. a 6.1 earthquake. Incredible. I believe it was much stronger than what they're saying as well. As you know, I've done my homework on this. Okay? This was a very powerful earthquake. Even a 6.1 is considered to be a very strong earthquake. Okay? 10 times stronger than a 5.1. Okay? 5.1 is a large earthquake. 6.1 is 10 times stronger than that. Okay? That was a very strong earthquake. It has potential to injure and unalive a lot of people. We go over here. Okay? We go over here south of New Zealand in the Bali Islands. This is a 5.5 very large earthquake. 5.5 very large earthquake. You see another earthquake here in the Fiji Islands, south of the Fiji Islands. This is a 4.4 earthquake, a moderate 4.4. USGS calls them light. They're nothing light about it. Moderate 4.4 earthquake. This happened south of the Fiji Islands in the Pacific waters. The waters absorbed the strength of the waves of this earthquake, the shock waves of this quake. The same here in the Bali Islands. Okay? This is 10 kilometers deep. This one south of Fiji is 502 kilometers deep. A fairly deep quake, which means there's going to be a 5.3 earthquake coming up. Deep earthquakes propagate larger, shallower quakes. This 4.4 south of the Fiji Islands is going to propagate a 5.2, 5.3 earthquake sometime within the next 10 days in this same area of the South Pacific. It could happen in Fiji, it could happen in Tonga, it could happen down in New Zealand, it could also happen over in Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands. But a 5.1, it's not going to be a 5.1. It's going to be a 5.3, 5.4 earthquake sometime in the next 10 days. We go further west. Now this happened today, this morning, just before 11 a.m. this morning Eastern Time. We've had a lot of large earthquakes in this area of Papua New Guinea. This is just another one. This is the 6th large earthquake that we've had here. Okay? The 6th large earthquake that we've had here. This is a 5.0. 10:57 a.m. Eastern Time today. This other earthquake of 5.4 happened at 2:06 a.m. this morning. Both earthquakes 10 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep. Shallow quakes, large, very large, shallow quakes. Both of them. 5.4 there and 5.0 here. They happen in the ocean waters. The ocean waters have absorbed the shock waves of this quake. I do not believe that anyone on land felt these quakes. This 5.0 here was 72 kilometers west-northwest of Rabaul, Papua New Guinea. This 5.4 was 71 kilometers northwest of Rabaul, Papua New Guinea. The ocean waters absorbed the shock waves of both quakes. One happened just after 2, and this other happened just after 10, well, it happened just before 11 a.m. this morning, 10:57 a.m. Okay? Now I'm backing this out. I want to show you this. Look what happened over here. Odisi, Indonesia. Guess what, guys? Again, The ocean waters here absorbed the shockwave of this quake, a 5.0 large quake, 65 kilometers deep, still a fairly shallow quake. But guess what? There's also a volcano over on this island here. There's also a volcano right here on this island. And it has been erupting. It has been erupting. Again, this is right in the middle of the largest subduction area in the world. Right smack dab in the middle of one of the largest subduction areas in the world. You cannot have volcanoes without subduction. You can't have subduction without volcanoes. Okay? Remember that fact. Now, we have another earthquake over here. Okay? These are in the Nicobar Islands. This is a 4.3 moderate earthquake here. 10 kilometers deep. This is in the Indian Ocean. The ocean waters absorb the shock waves of these quakes. Okay? Out in the open ocean. Now, as you can see, there are other islands here around it. Because of the strength of this quake, there was not that much strength. If anybody is even visiting one of these islands, these are unoccupied islands, by the way. The only occupants are people on sailboats, or cruise ships, or cruise boats, not cruise boats even, or cruise ships, but people with yachts visit these islands themselves. Nobody lives there. If anybody was there, they would not have felt this quake because it was just a moderate quake. It was far enough off the island where the shock waves of this quake were absorbed by the ocean water here in the Indian Ocean. Not a big deal. But there are other earthquakes over here in Sumatra, Indonesia here. Other earthquakes over here in Java, Indonesia. Other earthquakes over here in south central Indonesia. 14 earthquakes here in Indonesia today, and USGS shows us one. USGS shows us one quake. What a joke. What a joke. Further north here, guess what? This earthquake here is a 4.8. I believe this is actually a 5.0. This is south of Guam, south of the island of Guam. The island of Guam is a United States territory here. You can see Guam right here. There's a U.S. naval base over here on the west side of Guam right here. Okay? But this earthquake here is just a 4.8 moderate earthquake, they say, but I believe it's a 5.0. It's far enough away from Guam that nobody felt this quake. 208 kilometers southwest of Guam. Okay? It was also only 10 kilometers deep. Fairly shallow earthquake. But again, USGS is still not showing all the earthquakes. USGS is saying over here in the Ezio Islands that they had a 4.5 earthquake here. That came out as a 4.8, they downgraded it. Okay? Other earthquakes over here in the Aleutian Islands. 3.8 over here near Adak, Alaska. Further east, Nikolsky, Alaska. Another 3.8 small earthquake. This is a 3.7 here. 35 kilometers southwest of Nikolsky, Alaska. Further east here. This earthquake is an aftershock of a 5.0 earthquake here 2 weeks ago. This is a 3.7 earthquake here. Okay? Over here in Alaska, most of these are just 1.5, 1.7, 1.8, and several 2s here. For example, I shouldn't say only 2s. This is the only 3.8 earthquake here. This is in Skwitna, Alaska. Skwitna, Alaska. This is north of Mount Redoubt, Alaska. Mount Redoubt is the volcano just south of this earthquake. Okay? A 3.8 earthquake here. South of there, an earthquake just happened here. This is a 1.2 tremor. 1.2 tremor here. Again, this is a distance from Mount Redoubt, but just north of it here. We have a swarm of earthquakes. Why? Because Mount Redoubt is recharging. Mount Redoubt is recharging. That's why we have this swarm of earthquakes here. This is a 1.2 tremor. This is a 1.4 tremor. I'm not going to show all these earthquakes because they're just ones. This is 1.0 and one more here. This is a 2.1. 2.1 minor earthquake here. This is just south of Mount Redoubt volcano. Mount Redoubt volcano has been steaming. Steaming, guys. Okay? That's what's happening there. Let's take you quickly over to Europe. Okay? Over here. This is China, Bayan Hot, China. This is a 5.0 earthquake. Further to the west, this is Huocheng, China. A 4.5 earthquake here. Over here to the south, Afghanistan. Almost every day we have earthquakes here in Afghanistan. This is a 4.1 moderate earthquake here. Then we drop down here to Ethiopia. I want to give you a little bit of history about Ethiopia earthquakes and what is going on. This is a 5.0 earthquake. This earthquake happened at 4:18 p.m. this afternoon. This is a 4.7. This is a 4.5. This also is a 4.5. What they're not showing you is there are at least a dozen earthquakes since we came or ended our program yesterday evening. Over a dozen quakes, and they're not showing all of them. Largest earthquake at 5.1. This is a 5.0. Now I told you there's an earthquake fault here. An earthquake fault. It's called a rift zone. An RIFT rift zone, an earthquake fault. It is a rather large earthquake fault. Many moderate magnitude earthquakes have been recorded here in Ethiopia over the last 2 weeks. The USGS is reporting 55 events above magnitude 4, with the two largest reaching a 5.1. There's relatively little information that is available about these events. A handful of reports from Addis Ababa, the capital city, indicates shaking of intensity 4, meaning moderate shaking, during the large earthquakes. An even sparser handful from closer to the earthquake epicenter reached intensity 5. After one 5.0 earthquake on New Year's Day, one person 100 kilometers east of the epicenter wrote, quote, "All things in the home are shaking." That was a 5.0 large earthquake. Ethiopia is no stranger to earthquakes. It is bisected by the Eastern Africa Rift, one of Earth's few locations where a continent is actively breaking in two. Here, the Nubia Plate to the west is pulling away from the Somali Plate to the east. The Nubia Plate to the west and the Somali Plate to the east, pulling away from each other here. Okay? Some of you had talked about the rift breaking Africa apart. That's what is doing it. It's slowly pulling the continent apart at a rate of 5 millimeters per year. 5 millimeters per year. While the southern part of the eastern rift is running from Kenya to Mozambique, and it's still in the stage of continental rifting, pulling apart, with the resulting chasms providing room for the great interior lakes of Africa. In northern Ethiopia, the breakup has progressed to actual oceanic spreading. However, the ocean is absent because the land is too high. In this area, much like Iceland, a spreading center is actually exposed to air, and we can witness the typical hidden processes that birth new crust on the earth. The hidden processes that birth new crust on the earth. That's what's happening here. Okay? Now, does anybody have any questions about that? There are earthquake seismic events happening there in Ethiopia. There is magma movement within the East African Rift. There's magma movement within the East African Rift. I've told you there are volcanoes there. Yesterday I told you that there are volcanoes there. A lot of them. Let me see if I can pull up another picture here for you, just to give you an idea about these volcanoes. I think I do have a picture of the volcanoes here. Just a second here. Just a second here. Okay, where you see red diamonds here, where you see red diamonds on this map is where the volcanoes are. Let me see if I got a better picture than this. Let's see here. No, this isn't the one I was thinking. I thought I had a better picture that would show you a bunch of volcanoes, and that's what is going on. Now, what is actually going on here? Okay, there's decompression melting as the rock is moved towards the surface. Okay, as that rock is lifted up, we told you that there is a crust birthing process. The rock is lifted up as that rift opens up like this. Okay, as that rock is lifted up, it's actually melting. The heat of that rock lifting up, it's actually melting. Okay? There's solid beneath it, there's liquid, and right above the liquid, it's a solid again. Okay? It's a melting curve for dry mantle rock. This is the melting curve for dry mantle rock. The mantle is the center of the earth, okay? Now let me pull up another picture here. This African rift is doing this, okay? You see here where the volcano is. The KP is where the magma is, and the magma is pushing its way up to the volcano, right? That's happening. It's called a dike. This KP is a dike, pushing the magma towards the volcano. But the magma is not broken through the rock underneath the volcano. But there's heat there. There's a lot of heat. As that heat expands that rock, it breaks open the rock and allows the magma to work its way further to the top. This is a good picture of it. This is a really cool picture of it. Okay? As you see, this is the Ethiopian dome. Okay? Where the volcano is. We talked about the ocean. It's a dry ocean because there's no water there. Okay? Okay, this is not the slide I wanted to show you, darn it. Darn, double darn. Okay, so, guys, I'm sorry. I don't have the slide that I thought I had here to show you what's going on there in Ethiopia. But there's magma down beneath the crust, and it's pushing up. It hasn't quite gotten to the volcanic stage where it's going to push up into the volcano and erupt. There's only been a handful of volcanoes in this area that have actually erupted. Most of these volcanoes are steaming because the magma beneath it is heating up the rocks and it's allowing that steam to escape. As I have explained before, 6 to 7% of all magma is water. So as that water gets closer to the surface, it either goes through the surface of the earth or it goes up into the volcano and the volcano releases that steam. Okay? That's what's happening here. Now, I want to talk about some other place with the volcano. Okay? I want to talk about another place where there's a volcano and we're actually seeing earthquakes around it. Can anybody tell me where that place might be? Can anybody tell me where a place like that might be? We've talked about it before. How about over in Northern California, north of San Francisco? How about north of San Francisco? What is there? Can anybody tell me what is over north of San Francisco? Mad Mel says the Cascadia Fault Line. That is north of San Francisco as well, but the Cascadia Fault Line is more north and west. More north and west. Right now, I want to take us over to the west coast of North America. Okay? We're going to be on land. Okay? We have the geysers facility here. This is a geothermal facility here. Where you see this lake, this is Clear Lake Volcano. This is Clear Lake Volcano, guys. Let me take down my webcam here. I want to show you what we're talking about here. And this is important. See all these earthquakes here? We've been getting a lot of earthquakes here as of the last 2 or 3 days. 35 to 50 earthquakes here every day for the past 3 days. Usually we get a lot of earthquakes here. 15 to 20, sometimes 30 earthquakes every day. The most, maybe 35. Guess what? We got a large earthquake here today. The geysers facility normally doesn't get this size of an earthquake. This is a 4.7 moderate earthquake. The geysers facility shook today. And yes, there are people that live around here. Not in the geysers facility, but around it. This is Sonoma, California. Wine country. Wine country here in Sonoma County. This is a hotbed zone for what? Tremors, yes. Absolute tremors. But something else is happening here. This is 50 earthquakes here in the geysers facility today and yesterday. What is going on? Men have dug into the Clear Lake volcano. They drilled into the upper magma chambers of the Clear Lake volcano to obtain steam to power turbines to generate electricity from the geysers facility. I'm zooming in here right now so you can see one bank of turbines here. There are 9 different turbines here in this bank here. All over the geysers facility, there are a total of 81 turbines. Now, with each of these turbines, there has to be a place where men have dug in, drilled into the upper magma chambers of the volcano, right? Drill points. Drill points. Right up here we see drill points. Drill points supply the turbines with steam. Okay? There are drill points all over the geysers hillsides here. All over the area. Look at all these earthquakes here. Literally everywhere. 50 earthquakes here. 50 earthquakes all over this area. It's huge. It's huge. We come over here. This is another bank of turbines here. This bank of turbines is actually 9 turbines here again. I think the lowest amount of turbines, or the least amount of turbines, is like 4 or 5. Most banks of turbines are 9, maybe 10. Okay? I don't think I've seen 10. I think I've seen mostly 9. Literally all over these hills. Even one down here. Okay? Incredible. But today we had a 4.7 earthquake here. We don't normally see that. We do not normally see that. For example, right here. This is a 1.5 tremor here. We go north here in this bunch of tremors here. This is a 0.7 microquake. 0.7 microquake. Let's go over to one of these brand new earthquakes here. This is a 1.2 tremor. North of there, another brand new earthquake. This is a 0.6 microquake. Okay? Again, man has drilled into the upper magma chambers of this volcano right here to obtain steam from the volcano. And as a result, the seismic energy coming off the Pacific Ocean finds these man-made drill point earthquake faults. Yes, these drill points are man-made earthquake faults, just like we have in Texas. Just exactly like we have in Texas, whereas Texas, they drilled into the upper magma chambers of the volcano there. Oh, I'm sorry, they did not drill in the magma chambers down in Texas. They drilled down into the earth to obtain oil and gas in Texas. But each one of those drill points in Texas is also a man-made earthquake fault. That's what's happening here. That's what's happening. Okay? In case someone saw all these earthquakes, and folks, this 4.7 earthquake right here, this happened last night, 9:34 p.m. last night. 4.7 earthquake. It's the strongest quake I've seen here in 5 years. This is the strongest quake I've seen here in 5 years. And yes, we've also had earthquakes up here at Clear Lake. We've had earthquakes here at Clear Lake as well. These earthquakes here are magma induced. As I've said before, all of the volcanoes are recharging. Magma's coming up from the way down south in the Pacific Ocean, where there's a lava plume or magma plume down inside the earth. And that magma plume is pumping magma all over the earth. That's what's happening here. Tarabelle is here in our chat, just popped up on our thread. Tarabelle, we talk about emergencies and disasters on this particular channel. We talk about emergencies and disasters of all kinds, whether it's political issues, whether it's one country attacking another, as in ISIS coming out of the Middle East, attacking the United States during the past 2 days. Yes, ISIS. ISIS. We talk about earthquakes. We talk about storms, hurricanes, tornadoes. We talk about straight line winds that destroy property. We talk about viruses. We talk about just about everything. We do it here to help notify people what's going on that may affect them in their lives. So Tara, we'd love to have you here. Please give us a thumbs up and also subscribe to this channel. We'd appreciate that. Fridays, we talk about emergency preparedness. What happens when an earthquake or other disaster falls on us? We need to be ready. We talk about preparedness all the time, every Friday. Sometimes during the week, we also talk about preparedness as well. We'd love to have you here. Tara's saying she thought we defeated ISIS. We didn't. During the past 4 years, the Biden administration has allowed people to come here into the United States, allowed them to be here. These terrorists came into the United States. There are silent terror cells all over the United States now, literally. ISIS was defeated by Trump during his last administration. But during the past 4 years, the Biden administration opened up the southern border and even our northern border, allowing anybody to come in that wanted to. 25 million people have infiltrated the United States. Most of them, we don't even know who they are. Most of them, we don't have any idea who they are. And they're terrorists. They're also prisoners from prisons around the world that just let those people go. And they dump their IDs at the border of Mexico or Canada, and then they come into the United States and they pick up a different personality. They give our border people different names so they won't be found out who they really are. Okay? But terrorists are here. And yes, we've had some terrorist attacks. Both of the terrorist attacks that happened yesterday were by U.S. citizens who were ISIS sympathizers. Dr. James Place says, Ron, what is your opinion about the winter storm that's about to hit the Central East? Guys, that winter storm has come out of Canada and blew into the northern tier of the United States. Let's back this map out as we talk about the storm, so you can see what we're talking about. The storm came out of the Alberta area and British Columbia. It came down into the northern tier of the United States. It's blowing across North and South Dakota. Actually, it's blowing across Montana, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Indiana, and over to the east coast of the United States. Now it's also dropping temperatures as it goes. Temperatures are dropping into Texas, into the teens. Fahrenheit I'm talking about. Temperatures are dropping into the teens Fahrenheit. Very cold. It's also bringing a bunch of snow with it. In some cases, in the lakes area, the Great Lakes, we've had great amounts of lake effect snow, 2 to 3 feet of lake effect snow, burying people in the snow. They're trying to shovel it out. those cities and states are trying to blow their snow out. Now, it's going to take a while to unbury the cities and towns. And one area in northern New York over here, one town called Albany. Last week, Albany had 3 feet of snow in a matter of 2 days. 3 feet of snow in Albany, New York within 3 days. Guess what? It's going to happen again. As the snow comes through the United States, we're going to see that lake effect snow around Chicago, around Michigan, and Wisconsin. And even over here into Illinois, almost all of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. It's going to blast this area hard. And we talk about preparedness. I want to make sure you all are prepared. Make sure you have adequate winter clothing. Boots, heavy-duty shoes, socks, heavy-duty socks, pants, tops, jackets. Make sure you're adequately ready. Prepare your cars as well. Make sure your car has a vehicle emergency preparedness kit in the car. Make sure you have adequate food and water in your home. Make sure you have adequate food and water in your home. You don't want to be left by yourself. Okay? Mad Mel says Xanax and a bottle of whiskey. I don't think so. Ready Now says a full tank of gas as well. Always have a full tank of gas as much as possible. Yes, I know there are times when you can't have a full tank of gas, you won't have the money for it. But you please keep your tanks of gas over the halfway mark. Never let your car get below that, because if you have an emergency and you have to drive anywhere, you may not be able to get there because you might be stuck in a traffic jam or stuck in a traffic pile, and then all of a sudden you're not going to get anywhere. You might get stuck in a blizzard on a highway. My dad was stuck for 3 days on the side of Interstate 94 in 1972. 1972, 1973. In 1974, we moved to San Diego. We got out of there. 3 days on the side of the road. You know who found my dad? He was living in his car. 3 days. Couldn't get out of it. The snow covered the car. A snowplow going down eastbound or westbound Interstate 94 out of Fargo hit the side of my dad's car and tore it apart. That's how they found my father. Unreal. That's what's happened. That's what's up. Make sure you have a full tank of gas. Make sure you can run your car occasionally to be able to stay warm. My dad occasionally got out of his car and made sure the tailpipe was not covered by snow. That way the car was not going to be overcome by carbon monoxide. That was the only thing that my father did. Got out of the car for a few minutes, unclogged the back of the car, and got back in and kept warm. Okay? That's the way you do it. Mad Mel says, have no fear. I agree. You can't always be fearful. That's one of the things we teach here on our channel, is to not have fear. Be prepared. The Lord said in the scriptures, if you're prepared, you should not have fear. True. 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 Ray Spur, you ought to fear him. Does anybody have any questions about anything we said tonight? I'm going to drop this earthquake map because I basically told you about the earthquakes around the globe. And I want to show you those earthquakes over north of San Francisco in the Geysers facility. It's huge. I think there's 54 earthquakes over there right now. And the largest one was a 4.7 last night. Unreal. Unreal. Does anyone have any questions? Tarabell, I hope you're going to pack an emergency kit. That would be great. Because you'll never know when you're going to need it. Whether it's a winter storm or whatever might happen, you're going to need an emergency kit. And we teach about what goes into emergency kits as well. Tomorrow is Friday. We call it our Preparedness Friday. Tomorrow we're going to talk about emergency preparedness. Okay? So please join us. We'd appreciate that. We'd appreciate that. Ruthie says her former boss was lost in Maine in the 50s. Mount Katahdin, the movie just came out in November, Lost in Maine, all about survival. Look up the movie and watch. I'll have to do that. I'll have to do that. Demon Catman, it's good to see you, my friend. Demon Catman is our friend, our mod here from east of England. Demon Catman is a great man. That man I've grown to love, and I have never shaken his hand, which I'd love to do. Demon Catman is a great friend. I appreciate him very much. Please, folks, subscribe to our channel. When you subscribe, click on that notification bell so you can get notified when we come on the air. Also, subscribe. I talk about that so much because YouTube keeps unsubscribing people. Check and make sure you're still subscribed. If YouTube's unsubscribed you, resubscribe and click on that notification bell so you know when we come on the air. We usually come on the air between 6 and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. We come on the air occasionally after that at night or the middle of the night or in the mornings because there's an emergency that's come up and we talk about it. We've covered explosions. We've covered train wrecks. Remember that train wreck over in Ohio that derailed? And then the idiots dropped chemicals into the ground. Instead of putting it in a container, they drained it into the ground. And then they lit it on fire, further spreading deadly chemicals. We talked about that. We talked about that. But we want to make sure everybody knows what's going on. We talked about explosions at oil refineries. We talked about other kinds of explosions as well. We talk about electrical outages. A lot about that. We talk about all kinds of emergencies, including what's happened with those idiots that have hurt, killed people, and then killed themselves. Okay? I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over. Arnold Smith says, what's the current situation in North Carolina? Are goods getting to the folks? They are getting to the folks, guys. Gradually, goods are getting to the people in western North Carolina. There's still a need. I'm going to be dropping $50 tomorrow with one of the survival people from Samaritan's Purse. I'm going to be donating $50 to Samaritan's Purse tomorrow to help the people in western North Carolina that got hit back in September with that hurricane. They're still recovering. They're still recovering. There are people in tents, living in tents in the snow and blowing winds in the mountains of western North Carolina. It's bad. It's bad. But at least people like myself are helping Samaritan's Purse. We're helping Mercury One from Glenn Beck's show in Texas. Mercury One is his charity, also providing help to the people in North Carolina. Wonderful people. Wonderful, wonderful people. Yesterday, up in Asheville, North Carolina, Asheville was deeply affected by the hurricane. The hurricane blew into a lake, flooded the lake, the lake overflowed and fell. The dam broke and flooded out Asheville, North Carolina. Well, Asheville is slowly recovering back. WWE held a wrestling match in Asheville, North Carolina, and donated many thousands of dollars to the people in Asheville last night. My wife and I watched the wrestling match when we heard that WWE sponsoring the match was donating thousands of dollars to the people in Asheville. They need it. They need it. Now, some of you have also sent money to us, and we've donated to Samaritan's Purse and Mercury One. We're going to continue to do that. Any clothing that we donate, we have friends of ours that are cleaning their closets out and giving decent used clothing, and we take that to a place here in Burke County, North Carolina, where I live, and we donate it to them, and they take it up the mountain. And then I get reports from them about the people that they gave the clothing to. It's wonderful. Yeah, Dr. Jamin, he says they donated the ticket sales for the night to the people in Asheville. They did. Many thousands of dollars. Many thousands of dollars. I saw WWE wrestlers giving multi-thousand-dollar checks to people in Asheville. That was wonderful. Wonderful. Ray now says that's awesome. Yes, it is. And last month, some of you even gave us money during Thanksgiving time period or before Thanksgiving time period, and we took it over to Mercury. We gave it to Mercury One and also to Samaritan's Purse, who donated to the people in the mountains of North Carolina. It's not just one town, it's many, many towns all throughout the mountains of western North Carolina and over even into eastern Tennessee as well. Unreal. Mad Mel says, ugh, more earthquakes. Yes. Earthquakes don't stop. That's one of the reasons we talk about them frequently. They don't stop. And you never know when a major earthquake's going to hit. Okay? It hit over in northern Chile this morning. Okay? Huge earthquake. Antofagasta, Chile. 6.7 major earthquake. Actually, 6.7 is a very strong earthquake, but in that area, those people are not used to these sizes of earthquakes, and they're not used to prepare it either. And when they have an earthquake in northern Chile, it devastates that area. It kills a lot of people. Unreal. But we talk about that all the time. Earthquakes in Papua New Guinea and Indonesia. That area is the largest earthquake area in the world because they have 7 different tectonic plates. One plate subducting under the other there in Indonesia area, Southeast Asia. That's why they have so many earthquakes. Unreal. Anyway, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. It's already 9 p.m. here. We got on the air just before 7, actually I think it was just after 7 p.m. tonight, because we're trying to get all the information about what happened down in New Orleans and over in Las Vegas, Nevada. And they're also, the FBI and Washington police in D.C. are also looking for the gentleman that threatened the Capitol building last night. There's a gentleman that parked his car near the Capitol building last night and made some threats. And the FBI is after him now too. Okay? I fully expect to see that kind of stuff happen between now and January 6th and January 20th. Those are the big times. Okay? January 6th is a time when President Trump will actually get his election certified by Congress, and January 20th when he's inaugurated as 47th President of the United States. We need to keep our heads up. Things are happening. Protect yourselves. Protect yourselves, guys. Be aware of what's going on around you. Now, as I've done before, I'm going to do this tonight. I want to leave you with a scripture. We talk a lot about negative stuff during our program. Earthquakes and storms and everything else. But I want to leave you with something positive from the scriptures. And please, folks, don't just leave here because I'm going to read from the scriptures. Stay here for my devotional. I think it's very important, or I would not do it. I believe in Jesus Christ. Okay? I'm going over to chapter 9 of Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. I'm going to start with verse 10. Or saith he it altogether for our sakes. For our sakes. No doubt this is written, that he that ploweth should plow in hope, and that he that thresheth in hope should be partaker of his hope. If we have sown unto spiritual things, it is a great thing. If we shall reap their carnal things, if others be partakers of his power over you, are not we rather? Nevertheless, we have not used the power that suffereth all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Christ. Do ye not know that they which minister about holy things live of things of the temple? And they which wait at the altar are partakers with the altar? Even so hath the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. Yes, I am a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. I talk about God every day. I spend an hour, sometimes longer, in the scriptures every day. One, preparing for my Sunday school lesson that I give you on Sundays. But it's not just that. I live in the scriptures. I live in the scriptures, and I want to share those things I learned with you. I love Jesus Christ. I love the scriptures. In verse 16 in chapter 9 it says, For though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of it. Of necessity is laid upon me, yea, woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. Woe is unto me if I not preach the gospel. In verse 19, For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more. That is Apostle Paul speaking. But I put myself in the scripture there. In fact, as I have counseled all of you, put your own name in the scriptures. Not literally, don't write your name in there. But think of yourself as being talked to by God or by the apostles. Put your name in there. Make the scriptures personal. The Lord is talking to you. The Lord loves you. The Lord wants you to obey his commandments. Put your name in there as if the Lord is talking directly to you, because he is. The Lord is talking to each one of us in the scriptures. That is what is so wonderful about the scriptures. The scriptures are made for each one of us. The scriptures are made for each one of us. In Isaiah, for example, the prophet Isaiah saw our day. Isaiah in the Old Testament is full of proclamations from God. Isaiah saw our day. He talks about us. Go read the scriptures, guys. Go read the scriptures and hear the Lord talk to you. I bear you my testimony that I know the Lord lives. He and our Heavenly Father hear our prayers. Pray. Pray. Pray as if everything depended on you. pray to God. Let God hear and answer your prayers. Let Him. Don't hold back. Lord wants you. Lord wants you to follow Him. Belinda says she has her scriptures beside her bed. I have mine here in my office. I have another set in my bedroom. I've got another set downstairs. My wife keeps her scriptures by the side of her bed. We read the scriptures together. That's another thing. There are great blessings to be had by reading the scriptures with your spouse and your family. Share the gospel of Jesus Christ with your family. I want to thank all our mods for being here tonight. We love and appreciate you so much. We do. I don't say that enough. We love and appreciate you so very much. Now, folks, if anything else happens tonight, we will be back here to talk about it as soon as the information becomes available. Tonight or in the morning. We'll be back here on the air to talk about it as soon as the information becomes available. Until then, have a good night and a better tomorrow. We'll see you on the other side. God be with you until we meet again. Take care, everyone. Much love. See you soon. Good night, everybody.